In a world where the strong take advantage of the weak, and where the oppressed are even accused of being the oppressor, the consequences of war are always felt far and wide. The ongoing conflict in Ukraine and in other parts of the world serves as a poignant reminder of the human cost of violence and displacement. In our latest episode of the Stories to be Told blog series, we consider the multifaceted implications of war, not just for those directly involved, but for the global community as a whole. We are beginning a new era where the land of the free seems to have relinquished its leadership of the free world, but NATO's allies attempt to remain steadfast in their shared commitment to democracy and freedom, determined to sing from the same hymn sheet and defend their own interpretation of what keepers of the flame actually means. As we witness the events unfolding not only in Ukraine but in the US, we are reminded of the importance of understanding whose story is being told and who gets to tell it. Tracy DW's podcast series, Stories to be Told, the podcast series, encourages thought-provoking discussion that raises critical questions about perspective in history. Is history merely a collection of facts, or does it hinge on the narratives constructed by those in power? Just a few days ago in the Oval Office, there was an attempt to control the narrative, but at what expense to the facts? As Ukraine fights for its existence by resisting invasion, it also finds itself prey to a scramble for its natural resources, and has emerged smarting bruises from a perceived betrayal from a most unlikely source. Where the desire for imperial conquest is no more specified as colonialism, but rather euphemistically rephrased as a sphere of influence. Throughout her podcast series, Tracy also delves into the concept of virtue signalling in response to war, highlighting the stark contrast in how different conflicts have been perceived and reported. The US has often been reluctant to support foreign wars, but when it has become involved, it can become unclear as to whose war it is. But it usually knows whose side it is on, that of freedom and democracy. But we are witnessing a stray away from the norm and experiencing turbulent times as it has become unwilling to support the victim, appearing to admire dictatorship. As it robs minerals from war-torn countries, pressures Denmark to sell Greenland, the Panama to hand back the Panama Canal, and asks Canada to cease to exist as a sovereign state, it has cancelled all the medical and food programs that it has promised to the poorest and most vulnerable across the world. Then what is the nature of this proposed sphere of influence? And what shape will it form? And what direction will it take? Tracy challenges listeners to consider how these present-day actions and perceptions of war and conflict reveal parallels of the history of colonialism, the exploitation of indigenous populations, and the long-standing impacts of imperialism. Tune in now as we reflect on the ongoing war in Ukraine and in other parts of the world. We are compelled to ask questions, but the answers are often so complex, intertwining threads of history, race and power dynamics, and Tracy invites listeners to engage with the broader narratives that shape our understanding of conflict and humanity. You can also visit the bookshop at storiestobetold.com, where you can purchase Tracy's poetic narratives. Oh, and don't forget to comment, leave a 5-star rating and share the podcast series with others. It really helps the algorithm to extend the show's reach even further to new audiences. You can contact Tracy on info@storiestobetold.com or on SpeakPipe at speakpipe.com/stories to be told.